Hey there. Hello. Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Very, very, very busy day today.
Good.
Just had a meeting with a potential cantor,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, who just actually met with uh his wife also is they're song leaders together. I
They live
think
up here?
they just moved here. We're
Hmm.
really lucky. She works at Heschel as a song leader there, and I've seen her once, but she's phenomenal.
But
But
he would be the cantor
they would be together.
together.
They would work together as a team.
Older, younger?
What?
Older or younger?
Younger. Not kids, but younger than me. They have a 13
That's
year
not
old.
saying much though, Rabbi
I know.
nowadays.
Thank you. I so it's good to see everybody. As I was just telling the Schwartzes, I had a very, very busy evening tonight already, trying to get our music set up so that we can start having services again. So I had a really good meeting with Rick and Addie Lupert, who are new to the area, just moved to Santa Clarita. They just literally left my house. We were meeting for 2 hours, and they are song leaders. They do services out now at Temple Emmanuel in Redlands, and Addie is the song leader at Heschel. She's the song leader at Heschel Day School. So they're both very talented people. And Rick also works with Craig Taubman. But the other thing that happened tonight, my friends, is I felt the need to do something about what's going on, obviously, in Israel. So I got on the phone today and started calling people and said, we need to have a rally for Israel out here. So tomorrow night, we're going to have a rally for Israel that I just put together pretty quick. And this is going to go out to everybody tonight. So I already spoke with the other rabbis. I spoke with Jay and Choni, and we're setting this out. We're going to have this rally for Israel at City Hall. I spoke with my friend Jason Gibbs, and I said, Jason, make sure that the city doesn't give me any problems because we're going to show up there. I spoke to my friend at the Signal, Richard Budman, who's now a congregant of Temple Beth Ami, and I said, Richard, we're going to have an event. I said, Richard, do not put it in the Signal until afterwards because I don't want to have a counter protest. We might still have a counter protest, but I'm really not in the mood for having a counter protest. So this is what I put together today. So this is now going to go out to everybody. I literally just got this 5 seconds ago, and I'm going to send this out now to, I got this 5 minutes ago. And you're the first people to see it.
Wow. Good for us.
So
hey, Cheryl and David, fly in.
I'm sure there's something in Texas. It's something, one or two things I hope go on there. So
yeah, there needs to be.
Yeah, I know that.
Where does one park then tomorrow night?
At City Hall. Excuse me. At City Hall. So I'm going to send this out to everybody right now. I'm going to send it out to the other synagogues. And folks, I thought about it. I said, we got to do something. And I looked in the mirror and said, you're going to do something. Said, who else is going to do anything right now? So I said, you better get on it. And I did. And I was supposed to actually be in Arizona tomorrow for the day. And I canceled the trip. And I said, I'm going to send it, I'm going to send the flyer right now. I'm just telling people to bring flags, bring your Israeli flag.
I just read something interesting.
Yep.
It said you need to be the leader you are waiting for. And that's a message to all of us. Yeah. You need to be the leader you are waiting for. You can't wait for someone else to do it. Good for you.
The thing is that I'm getting too old for this. What's that movie? I'm getting too old for this stuff. But no, I'm not. I told people, I said we're going to do it, and we're going to I'm just sending it to I'm sending it to Jason Gibbs right now. And
Good.
he was obviously very supportive. And I spoke to my friend Mike Garcia, and Mike Garcia is going to give an audio message because he's in DC. We were texting earlier in the day about what's going on. I thanked him. He posted on Twitter, and of course took some flack for standing for Israel. But I didn't even know about it. But the guy from my friend from who works for APAC told me that they're asking people to do it, and he did it right away. So I wrote, thanks for your message of support. This was at 12:45. The support for Israel. You can always be counted on to speak the truth. And he said, amen. Praying for Israel. This is not good. I'm worried about the Iron Dome magazine depth. This is Mike's text to me today. And I said, yes. And this is what I wrote back. And unfortunately, this became an issue in domestic politics, which is ridiculous. And he wrote, yep, it's criminal. And then at 2:48, I said to him, I'm putting together a rally tomorrow night at City Hall. Do you want to deliver an audio message or come on the phone? It's going to be at 7 p.m. And he wrote, can I pre-record something? I'm in DC. And I said, yes, that would be wonderful. So now he's going to record something and send it to me, and we'll have at least an audio message from him. And my friends, you're the first to have seen that flyer, but it's now going up onto the Facebook world. So folks, this should not be a political issue. These are people in Israel who are literally it should not be a political issue. It unfortunately has become an issue in our country, but it shouldn't be. It's a pretty simple issue.
It looks like war. With all the tanks that are going there, I think there's going to be a war. I don't think this is just going to be rockets and planes going back and forth. I think
we'll see. We'll see in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
And folks, I want to tell you something. We cannot allow this to be something that becomes politicized. Democrats, Republicans, everybody needs to come out and let's just remind people that up until recently, this never would have been a political issue, and it shouldn't be a political issue. There's nothing about this that is anything other than innocent civilians being rained on, and I mean, what can you say? I mean, this is not something that seems like a no-brainer to me.
Way to go, Rabbi.
Thank you.
I understand.
Just so you know, at 2:45, I was planning on not having a class tonight because I wanted the event to be tonight. And then a few people said, I need a day. And I said, sure, whatever. But I wanted it to be tonight. There is actually a rally tonight at that Stand With Us put together that's at the federal building down in Westwood.
Oh, did you read Netanyahu's speech? I just got a copy of it, and I read it maybe 10 minutes ago. It was absolutely outstanding. And I can forward it to anybody.
Please forward it to me.
I will forward it.
My friends, please don't let this become a political. Don't turn this into Democrats versus Republicans. This is something that everybody needs to be on board with. Everybody. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. My daughter Shira told me today, you're going to get a problem from the young people in Santa Clarita, that the young people are going to come, they're going to be against it. And I said, you know what? That disappoints me. And she's probably right. But
Rabbi, what do you have in the way of key points or talking points to respond to those kinds of issues?
I think the biggest point is if and again, people have said it before, but if people were lobbing missiles into the United States at random, indiscriminate territory, land inside San Diego or Los Angeles, we wouldn't tolerate it. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, this is again, people who are trying to just go about their business and sleeping. This has nothing to do with protests. This has nothing to do with riots. This has nothing to do with anything other than people indiscriminately firing missiles at people in Israel. That's how it started. That's the only thing that happened with Israel then responding to it. I mean, I don't, there's really nothing else to say.
There are over 1,100 missiles already landed, and they're stronger and more powerful than any missile that's ever landed in Israel before.
It's over 1,300 now.
Oh, all right, I'm behind.
It's over 1,300.
And one of the tragedies is to see on the internet hospital healthcare workers grabbing babies and trying to get babies in the care, whatever it is where the babies are in the hospital, and getting them to a safe place in the hospital during the bombings. It's absolutely tragic.
Terrible. Look, I didn't wake up this morning. Honestly, I just knew that this was bad.
Yes. It's worse than we thought.
But again, by 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, I said, how do we not do something? That's basically what happened.
And if there's anything that's political, it's an attempt to see how the U.S. administration responds if they're going to come to Israel's aid.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, that's where it starts to get political. And I will tell you this, the reality is nobody knew until actually something happened what the response would be. Okay. I will tell you that as of now, the response, and people will say, well, it's easy for you to say that. The response from the administration so far has been about what I expected it to be, which is not as bad as some people thought it would be. I also, obviously I lament the fact that this is happening. There's a reason why these missiles are the worst missiles since 2014. Because again, the previous administration wasn't going to tolerate it at all. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but as of right now, at least the administration for the most part has let Israel take care of what it needs to take care of. Will it be like that again tomorrow or the next day? I don't know. But as of right now, I want to make it clear. Israel has so far not had a problem from the United States administration in what they've done. I can tell you that based on what I've seen Israel do so far, not a problem. So that's a good thing. And I don't want it to become a political thing. I want people to be able to say, honestly, this is where I don't want it to be political. I don't want people to say that the Biden administration failed Israel. I don't want that to be the case.
Well, I don't want them to deny Israel the replenishment for ammunition for the Iron Dome. That's what's needed right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's happening with that request. Do you?
As of right now, I haven't heard anything bad. I will let people know if that changes. For the folks, I promise you, I will definitely let you know if that's what happens. Let's hope it doesn't. Honestly, we have to not let this become something where one side goes, see, I told you so, they were going to be bad. Let's hope that it isn't something where we sit and tell people we told you so. So with that being said, folks, I am exhausted, but I'm very glad that we didn't have to postpone class today. Getting too old for this. Listen, I actually, you know what, the bigger issue is, I really don't want to, I'm really worried that I'm going to see something negative from somebody who is a friend of mine. I mean, I don't know who. I'm not saying I know who's going to do it. I really don't want to see I don't want to see anything negative and be disappointed with somebody right now. That's all I want to say. That I want to tell you. All right, folks. So let's hope that this doesn't get to be, I've told you all, I don't want this to get political, but if it does, it wasn't me. All right, folks. I promise you it wasn't me, but there's certain things that I'm not going to back down on. And one of them is the safety and security of Israelis. By the way, not all of them are Jewish. Some of the people who've been killed by the rockets are not Jewish.
Right.
Okay? Israeli Arabs have been killed by these rockets as well. Okay? So, let's turn to the Torah and to a new book of the Torah, to the book of Numbers, which again, for those who are, let me get us up on Facebook. By the way, I just posted up the flyer that I had done.
Good.
Just posted up the flyer on Facebook too. So feel free, not, during the middle of class, but during your free time, to post it around and let people know that we're doing this. We're all doing it. I invited, again, all the synagogue, all the other rabbis are going to be there too. By the way, none of them gave any, no, I can't be there, whatever. Choni from Chabad, Jay Siegel from Beth Shalom, we're all very excited to do it. And, they were happy to participate. No problems. Everybody agreed that this was something good. And we're going to keep it very non-political and very simple. And, anybody who wants to speak on behalf of Israel, whatever their political party, I'm okay with. All right. But it's for Israel, this thing. That's what it is. All right. So let's take a look at Torah, folks, today, and the book of Numbers, which is the journey of our people from Mount Sinai to the promised land. This is where we have movement. The book of Leviticus, as we said last week, there is no movement. There is no getting from point A to point B. It's one place, Mount Sinai. We're going to start at Mount Sinai right there on the first day in the wilderness of Sinai. But the last book of the Bible, of the Torah, the 5 books, Deuteronomy, that book also doesn't move. So book 3 and book 5 don't move. Book 4, it moves. So there is narrative, there's movement. Book 5, remember, Deuteronomy is a second telling of the journey. Much of it happens in Exodus and some of it happens in Numbers. So 2 and 4 are movement, Exodus and Numbers, and then 3 and 5 are not movement. It's kind of interesting if you think about it. You have a book of laws and you have a book of recollections in addition to the narrative, which if you think about it, Genesis kind of stands apart as the kind of the prequel, if you will. It's the prequel to the Exodus story. If the Exodus story is the main part of the narrative of the Torah, of the 5 books, books 2 and books 4 are the narrative parts, are the movement parts, and 3 and 5 are more reflective. They're more introspective. They're literally go on in the mind, because Leviticus goes on in the mind and in the words of Moses and Aaron and the priests. And then book 5 is Moses speaking to the people, again, all in a second telling, all in a flashback. So it's very interesting that's if you think about it, half of the narrative of Exodus, or half of the text of the Bible, of the Torah, of the first 5 books of the Bible, half of those books, books 3 and 5, are not narrative. Very little narrative. And you don't appreciate that until like somebody points it out to you, like I'm doing right now, or again, as you've done now, finish Leviticus, and now we get into it. I will tell you, the first 2 chapters, or the first 2 portions of Numbers, are also not narrative. I'm not ruining the story by telling you that the first parts of Numbers are numbers, and they are directions, and they are stations, and they are locations. And before we get into the narrative in the third parsha, we really are in the midst of kind of almost a continuation of Leviticus, details and not movement yet. But let's get there. So it says, on the first day of the 2nd month in the 2nd year following the Exodus from the land of Egypt, the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, saying. So again, this is a year later. They've been at Mount Sinai for a year. It took them only a few weeks to get to Mount Sinai, and then for a year they're at Mount Sinai. And this is where we get the numbering. In Hebrew, Bamidbar comes from the fourth word here, Bamidbar, in the wilderness. In English, from the Greek and Latin, this is where we get the idea from. Take a census of the whole Israelite community by the clans of its ancestral houses, listing the names every male head by head. This raising up of the people in the census. The word for census in Hebrew here is sa'u et rosh, lift up the heads, which is, by the way, kind of a nice way of saying we're taking accounting of the people. We're lifting them up. And we're lifting them up. And we're in the count. But of course, we use the word census for it. I like lift up the heads of all the community. And then again, the males head by head. You and Aaron shall record them by their groups from the age of 20 years and up, all those in Israel who are able to bear arms. And as we point out every year, when we read this and look at it, the point of the census was to understand essentially at the bottom line, how many soldiers do we have? Because again, they're going into or getting ready to go into the promised land. At this point, they think they're going into the promised land. And so they need to know how many soldiers they are. And as we've talked about every time we read it, censuses are usually done to figure out two things: how much you can tax people and how many soldiers can you rely on when you go to war. That's it. It's only for those purposes. So the government knows what they can rely on, what they're going to be able to have. Associated with you shall be a man from each tribe, each one the head of his ancestral house. So this now is the list of the heads of those tribes. These are the names of the men who shall assist you. From Reuben, Elazar, son of Shedeur. From Shimon, Shelumiel, son of Zurishaddai. From Judah, Nachson, the son of Aminadav. From Issachar, Netanel, son of Zuar. From Zvulun, Eliav, son of Chalon. From the sons of Joseph, from Ephraim, Elishama, son of Amihud. From Manasseh, Gamliel, son of Pedazur. From Benjamin, Abidan, son of Gideoni. From Dan, Achiezer, the son of Amishadai. From Asher, Pagiel, son of Ochran. From Gad, Eliasaph, son of Deuel. From Naphtali, Achirah, son of Enan. Those are the tribes in that order, by the way, which is a little different than the orders that we sometimes have the tribes. Whenever we have a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah reading these, it's a lot of names. And we do actually this week have a bar mitzvah. And Noah is going to be reading that list of names. Not an easy thing to do. But again, we read these elders, these leaders of the tribes who are, what are their jobs? Those are the elected of the assembly, the chieftains of their ancestral tribes. They are the heads of the contingents of Israel. And Moses and Aaron took those men who were designated by name, and on the first day of the second month, they convoked the whole community who were registered by the clans of their ancestral houses, the names of those aged 20 years and over being listed head by head. As the Lord had commanded Moses, so he recorded them in the wilderness of Sinai. They totaled as follows: the descendants of Rouvain, Israel's firstborn, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house, as listed by name, head by head, all males, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Rouvain, 46,500. Of the descendants of Shimon, the registration of their clans by their ancestral house, their enrollment is listed by name, head by head, all males aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. From the tribe of Shimon, 59,300. So you see in the first two tribes that we have listed, which are the oldest tribes, the two older sons of Jacob, 46,000 and 59,000. So you can see kind of on an average of about 50,000 per tribe. Guess what? That's what we're going to have. We're going to have 600,000.
Wow.
Which is about 50,000 per tribe. Now, here we go to the next tribe. Well, wait a second. It's not Levi. Levi is the third son, but he's not listed here. No. Now we've gone to Gad. Of the descendants of Gad, the registration of their clans, of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those enrolled from the tribe of Gad, 45,650. Huh. Of the descendants of Judah, the registration of their clans, of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, those of the tribe of Judah, 74,600. Now, I'm not going to ruin it for you by telling you that's a pretty big number.
Yes.
And you and I, folks, are descendants of this tribe. This tribe that was already, before they even entered the land, a pretty big tribe.
How do you know that?
What?
That we're all from the tribe of Judah.
Because we are Jews. And the word Jew is derived from the tribe of Judah. So by the time that the temple was destroyed,
Not everybody's part of Judah.
not everybody is only from the tribe of Judah, but every one of us has Judean blood in them, Judah blood.
Ah.
So even if you're a Levite, even if you're a
Which I
Cohen,
am.
you are not 100% Cohen. You're not 100% Levite. There's no such thing. The reason
I'm
is
100% Ashkenazi.
Yeah.
you're not 100%. You're not 100% Levite.
Okay.
You can't be because over the years we've given up the idea that only Levites can marry within their tribe, or Kohanim can only marry within their tribe. And actually, what we know from the Torah itself is we read not every Kohen marries within the Kohen community. So what happens, of course, is that people do not have pure. Any of these tribes were already a little mixed up. But the rabbis tell us by the time of the second temple's destruction, everybody's mixed up. But the Judites, the Jews, are the majority tribe of the genetic background of the Jewish people. And so that means that virtually every one of us is related to King David and King Solomon.
Great.
Virtually everybody. Yep.
I'm glad.
You have that blood flowing in you.
Yay.
So, let's look at the next tribe. Of the descendants of Issachar, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Issachar, 54,400. Still a lot. Of the descendants of Zebulun, the registration of their clans, of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms. The tribe of Zebulun is 57,000. Of the descendants of Joseph, of Ephraim, the registration of those clans of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all were able to bear arms. Oh, those in the tribe for the tribe of Ben, those enrolled, 40,500. Well, just went down. Well, don't worry about it, folks, because eventually the tribe of Ephraim becomes very, very powerful and ends up becoming very numerous. But at least at this time, they're not as numerous. Now, before you say, well, that's weird. Why are they so much smaller? Well, because they're only half the tribe of Joseph. Joseph has two descendants, Ephraim and this next one, Manasseh. Of the descendants of Manasseh, the registration of the clans of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all who were able to bear arms, 32,000. So if you add up 40,000 and 32,000, that's 72,000. That's quite a lot. That's a decent sized tribe. So Joseph's tribes are roughly the size of Judah. Now we get to Benjamin, who is the other daughter, other son of Rachel. They're the tribes of Rachel, the Joseph tribes and the Benjamin tribes. So Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh are all descendants of Rachel. Of the descendants of Benjamin, the registration of their clans of their ancestral house is listed by name, aged 20 years and over, all were able to bear arms. Those enrolled from the tribe of Benjamin, 35,400. Now, as the youngest tribe, that might not be surprising. Now, we're not done with the tribes though, because now we go to the tribes, the descendants of the concubines, Bilhah, of the descendants of Dan. The registration of their clans, of their ancestral house is listed by name, age 20 years and over, all who are able to bear arms. Those enrolled in the tribe of Dan, 62,700. Of the descendants of Asher, the registration of their clans, of their ancestral house is listed by name, age 20 years and over, all who are able to bear arms. Again, that same phrase goes for every one of these, the repetition of that phrase. Those enrolled with the tribe of Asher, 41,500. Of the descendants of Naphtali, the registration of their clans, of their ancestral house is listed by name, age 20 years and over, all who are able to bear arms. Those enrolled of the tribe of Naphtali, 53,400. These are the enrollments recorded by Moses and Aaron by the chieftains of Israel, who are 12 in number, one man to each ancestral house. All the Israelites aged 20 years and over, enrolled by ancestral houses, all those in Israel who were able to bear arms, all who were enrolled, came to 603,550. Now,
Rabbi, you know what I love when we went to Israel, seeing all the women who were in the Israeli armed forces. It was absolutely stunning, and they didn't use the women then.
nope, nobody used women in armies back in those days, at least from what we know. There was the legendary Amazon women, right? But other than that, women were very rarely allowed to be in combat. Israel is still one of the few countries that allows women to have fairly active combat roles. But even within Israel, there are combat roles that women usually can't have. But there's an understanding that women have been very involved in the military and the armed forces from the founding of Israel, and a recognition that women, have that passion and belief in the country, which was very powerful. Like Joyce said, it really is something that is a wonderful.
It was beautiful to see. The other thing that I'm curious about, David wrote me that yesterday or the day before about the reputation of Israeli pilots. David?
Rabbi, one of the things that I do is I'm a support crew member at CAE Semiflight. And this is the sim sessions for training pilots or recertify them on an annual basis. And the Israeli pilots have a reputation from the instructor pilots that they are very serious, they're very precise, and they're among the elite, the creme de la creme of pilots, that when it comes to either the classroom where they have to know the speeds or the specifications, or in the sim itself, actually performing the maneuvers, they are among the best pilots that CAE trains.
Yeah. Well, so part of what happens in Israel and why the pilots are so important is and so valuable, if you will. Israel has this weird situation, right? Since everybody has to go in the military, kind of without choice, right? And again, there are people who opt out. It's not considered a very good thing to do. But what happens is there are elite units or elite roles to play in the military in Israel today. And what's interesting is that we have that to some extent, even in the Bible, where we talk about shock troops or vanguard troops. Because this isn't talking about it. This is talking about in the Torah, every man who's able to bear arms. But there is a recognition even in the Torah that there are soldiers, there are professional soldiers, and then there's the militia, or the people who you can put a axe in their hands and they're going to have to fight. So in Israel, the most prestigious units to get into, it is the units of paratroopers, right? The units that people like Ehud Barak were in, or Netanyahu. But the overarching goal of almost every Israeli young person when they go into the military is to be a pilot. But the problem is they have to pass some very strict tests, physical and mental tests, in order to get into the Air Force. And so it's the highest level of Israeli accomplishment is to become a pilot. And so every Israeli boy, for at some point in their life, not every, but 90% of them dream about being pilots because they know they're going in the military. And if you have to go in the military, you want to go into the best, you want to go into the elite part of the military, and you want to go into the hardest, most difficult thing to get into because it says something about you. And so becoming a pilot is the greatest thing. For years, I had an Israeli Air Force jacket, and I didn't wear it in Israel. I guess no, I don't think I ever wore it in Israel. It's a pretty heavy jacket, but I wear it here. And Israelis always used to come up to me and say, "How did you get that jacket? You're not supposed to have that jacket," because it wasn't just wearing an OD jacket. This was, literally like something that people craved, was to have that Chayil HaAvir, the soldier of the air jacket. That was their biggest thing, was to have that, was to be able to have that, to have those colors. So it's still a big deal. And that's why the Israeli pilots are really, really very well respected. And they have a pride in it, which means that, like, when they come and train in America, or they teach or whatever they do, they take a lot of pride in it. It is an elite level of accomplishment. It is, I hate to say it, but because university doesn't have the same cachet in Israel as it does in America, which is interesting, right? Because Israel is obviously a very academically advanced country, but because most people there don't necessarily go to university, and the academics are not, they're not the highest priority, which, by the way, not such a bad way to actually live. We put these crazy, badges of honor if you go to Ivy League school, but in the end of the day, let's face it, it doesn't make you a good person, a brilliant person, anybody that anyone needs to really need. We have a twisted vision of university and the people who come out of there, but in Israel, it's the army, it's the armed forces that actually puts you at an elite level. And so if you are in Air Force, that is the equivalent, honestly, of being in the Ivy League in Israel. 100%.
Are there any
Air
female
Force
pilots? I never asked that. Are there any female pilots?
Yeah, there are.
Yes,
There are.
Okay.
There are. I
Probably
can't remember. They have limited combat duty, allowable combat duty for women pilots, and I'm not sure exactly where it is now today. I haven't asked, but yes, there are certified Israeli Army pilots, helicopter pilots, but it is still in Israel. Even if you can be an engineer in the Israeli Air Force, it's considered to be high commendation. So even if you get to be a service technician in the Air Force, that's already, people fight for that kind of position in Israel.
Great.
So that's, Dave, that's the answer to your question. That's how it comes about, because those people have a huge level of pressure on them once they're done to maintain that reputation, and to really they're expected to be that way. So now here we get this great line. The Levites, however, were not recorded by their ancestral tribe. For the Lord had spoken to Moses, saying, do not on any account enroll the tribe of the Levites, the Levim, or take a census of them with the Israelites. Whoop. Shouldn't be there. Why? Because you shall put the Levites in charge of the tabernacle of the pact, all its furnishings and everything that pertains to it. They shall carry the tabernacle and all its furnishings. They shall tend it, and they shall camp around the tabernacle. When the tabernacle is set out, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. Any outsider who encroaches shall be put to death. So the Levites are not soldiers. They're not soldiers. They are priests and religious leaders. Their job is to take care of the tabernacle, take care of the temple, take care of those things. This is a very important job. And they are full-time. That's their full-time gig. They do not have to be soldiers. And as a matter of fact, anybody who encroaches on it is going to die. Now, we will get later on a breakdown of the Levites. The Levites will actually be accounted for in a separate census. So don't worry, Levites. You'll be accounted just differently. So now we get to how they're camped out. The Israelites shall encamp troop by troop, each man with his division and each under his standard. The Levites, however, shall camp around the tabernacle of the pact. And
50 seconds.
Hold it a second. I'm hearing somebody. Okay, sorry. The Levites shall stand guard around the tabernacle of the pact. The Israelites did accordingly, just as the Lord had commanded them. So the tribes are stationed around the tabernacle in the center, and the Levites are there in front of the tabernacle. We'll get more into the splitting of the tribes up in the Torah, but let's take a look at again the fact that we have an accounting of who the tribal elders are. Now we had the accounting of how many were in each tribe, and now that we know who's there, they're going to split them up and tell them how they're going to be set up. The Israelites shall camp with each with his standard under the banners of their ancestral house. They shall camp around the tent of meeting at a distance. And this is the very famous now listing of the tribal of the tribes around the tabernacle. So here is the description, and it's going to be directional. So camped on the front or east side, the standard of the division of Judah, troop by troop, chieftain of the Judites, Nachshon, son of Aminadav. His troop is enrolled 74,600. So you can see all that information is now again brought back in. Who the head of the tribe is, who the person is, who's the elder, members, it's all there. So and they went with the Judites first in this list. So notice the list is different as it's presented with the numbers, because what we're going to, well, I'll show you in a second why. Camping next to it, the tribe of Issachar, chieftain of the Issacharites, Nathanael, son of Tuar, his troop has enrolled 54,400. Tribe of Zebulun, chieftain of the Zebulunites, Eliab, son of Chalon, his troop has enrolled 57,400. Total enrolled in the division of Judah, 186,400 for all troops. These shall march first. So that's Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, those three tribes. By the way, they're going out first, facing east. The biggest cohort of three tribes. It's three tribes in each of the four directions. You can do the math. Makes sense. On the south, the standard of the division of Rouvain, troop by troop, chieftain of the Reubenites, Elizur, son of Shedeur. His troop as enrolled 46,500. Camping next to it, the tribes of Shimon. Chieftain of the Shimonites, Shalumiel, son of Zurishirai. His troop is enrolled 59,300. And the tribe of Gad, chieftain of the Gadites, Eliasaph, son of Reuel. His troop is enrolled 45,650. The total enrolled in the division of Rouvain, 151,450 for all troops. These shall march second. So this is the second division, which is called the Camp of Rouvain. So we have Judah. Judah is the big leader of that division. So again, we have troops by tribe, and then we have those grouped together as a division. Which again, this is very similar to what we have in a military, which are hierarchies and also cohorts based on size and strength to keep them, again, when armies move around troops, to know that in this division there'll be this amount of troops, and in this, so different countries have different numbers of what makes up a division, what makes up a platoon, what makes up the different battle groups. These are slightly, none of them are exactly the same, but if you do the math, each one would come out to roughly 150,000. If there's 50,000 roughly per tribe, there's 3 tribes in each division, it's about 150,000 people. Well, you'll see it in a second. Then, midway between the divisions, the tent of meeting, the division of the Levites shall move. As they camp, so shall they march, each in position by their standards. So that is the Levites in the middle. Now, back to the tribes that are the fighter tribes. On the west, on the opposite side of Judah, the standard division of Ephraim, troop by troop. Chieftain of the Ephraimites, Elishama, son of Amihud. His troop is enrolled 40,500. Next to it, the tribe of Manasseh, chieftain of the Manassites, Gamliel, son of Pedatsur. His troop is enrolled 32,200. And the tribe of Benjamin, chieftain of the Benjamites, Abidan, son of Gideoni, his troop is enrolled 35,400. The total enrolled in the division of Ephraim, 108,100 for all troops. They shall march third. Now that's a pretty small division. This division, for whatever reasons, got shorted. What this division has in common, Benjamin, Manasseh, and Ephraim, they're all descendants of Rachel. They're all the Joseph and Benjamin troops, the brothers, the youngest brothers. They're grouped together in one camp, in one division. But again, their total numbers are fairly small, but very powerful. And what we learn later, very good soldiers. Very good soldiers. So we have one more division. Here we go. On the north, the standard of the division of Dan. Troop by troop, chieftain of the Danites, Achiezer, son of Amishadai. His troop has enrolled 62,700. Camping next to it, the tribe of Achran, camping next to it, tribe of Asher, chieftain of the Asherites, Pagiel, son of Achran. His troop is enrolled 41,500. And the tribe of Naphtali, chieftain of the Naphtalites, Achirah, son of Enan. His troop is enrolled 53,400. The total enrolled in the division of Dan, 157,600. These shall march last by their standards. Those are the enrollments of the Israelites by ancestral houses. The total enrolled by the divisions for all troops, 603,550. The Levites, however, were not recorded among the Israelites as the Lord had commanded Moses. The Israelites did accordingly, just as the Lord had commanded Moses, as commanded Moses. So they encamped by their standards. So they marched, each with his clan, according to his ancestral house. So just as we read at the end of chapter 1, at the end of chapter 2, The Israelites did what they were told to do, which they didn't always do, but here they do it. Let's take a look at a map so you can visualize it a little bit better. This is the tribes as a map based on what we just read. So here are the tribes as they were listed. Started off east, then it went south, then it went west, and then it went north. Everybody got it? You can see it. With the total here, right here, too. 186,000, 151,000, 108,000, 157,600. Now, in the inside is where you have the tabernacle. They're all stationed around the tabernacle so that no one could get in. Now, if you think that that's going to protect them, yeah, it should. But this is where the Levites are, is another level of protection and another level, if you will, of, again, doing their jobs. They're broken up into 3 divisions. These are the Levite clans, if you will, the subgroups, which we're about to read about. Is that clear? Everybody gets to see the map here now of what it looked like. So there was a split of the tribes into these 4 divisions, at least for when they marched. And again, assumedly when they would go into battle. Now, we come into chapter 3. Hold it 1 second. Get rid of that. And let's go back to the Torah, back to the text. So this is chapter 3, and now we get into the division of the Levites. This is the line of Aaron and Moses at the time that the Lord spoke with Moses at Mount Sinai. These were the names of Aaron's sons: Nadav, the firstborn, and Avihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. Those were the names of Aaron's sons, the anointed priests who were ordained for priesthood. Now it says these were the names, or those, and those were the names here of Aaron's sons. It says these were the names here. Those were the names. It could be, it's the same word. It could be those, but we know, obviously, as we read in Leviticus, Nadav and Avihu died by the will of the Lord when they offered alien fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai, and they left no sons. So it was Eleazar and Itamar who served as priests in the lifetime of their father Aaron. So it tells us again what happened in Leviticus, and it also tells us again that yes, there were 4 sons, and they are accounted for, but there are only 2 that had children. There are only 2 that end up having their descendants be counted as priests for the future, which is why saying that these are the names and or these were the names, the key word is were, because 2 of them aren't there anymore. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, advance the tribe of Levi and place them in attendance upon Aaron, the priest, to serve him. They shall perform the duties for him and for the whole community before the tent of meeting, doing the work of the tabernacle. They shall take the charge of all the furnishings of the tent of meeting, a duty on behalf of the Israelites, doing the work of the tabernacle. You shall assign the Levites to Aaron and to his sons. They are formally assigned to him from among the Israelites. You shall make Aaron and his sons responsible for observing their priestly duties, and any outsider who encroaches shall be put to death. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I hereby take the Levites from among the Israelites in place of all the firstborn, the first issue of the womb among the Israelites. The Levites shall be mine. So the Levites essentially take the place of the firstborn of the first of the offering. They are the people that God has now chosen for service. And essentially it's like he's picking out a part of the Israelites for something else, like you would pick out a sacrifice. The Levites essentially are singled out as to God. God says, for every firstborn is mine. At the time I smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I consecrated every firstborn in Israel, man and beast, to myself, to be mine, the Lord's. And so, since they're mine, I'm telling you that all of them are mine, but I'm only going to take the Levites as mine. But I'm going to take all of them. I'm going to take the Levites as my firstborn from all of your people, but I'll only take the Levites will take their place. All the Levite men. The Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai. So that's really kind of with that issue of the Levites. But if they have this important role to play, now we get an understanding of who they are too and how many there are. Because the Levites have this important role to play, but they're a tribe. And so they are numbered. The Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, record the Levites by ancestral house and by clan. Record every male from among them the age of 1 month and up. So here is the thing that's different about the Levites. We don't count the Levites from the time they're 20, the way we counted the other people. We count them from 1 month and up, which is when you essentially do the pinyon, not essentially, it's when you do the pinyon haben. It's when you actually count the child as a viable child and you do the redemption of the firstborn with them. That's when the Levites essentially are now counted. From that point on, they're considered as part of this numbering. They are counted at least. We learn later, and I know some of you know because you read it, they don't serve as Levites. They don't serve as priests. They don't serve in priestly duties until they're older. And what's interesting about them is they also age out. There's a expiration date on a priest, but they're counted from the time they're essentially been dedicated to God. So we dedicate every pinyon haben. We do a pinyon haben ceremony for boys, but they're not Levites. So they go back to their parents. Essentially, the Levites go back to God when they're 1 month old. And these were Levites. These were the Levite tribes, or the sub-tribes of the Levite tribe. These are the clans. It's because Levi had 3 sons, the sons of Levi by name, Gershon, Kohat, and Mirari. These were the names of the sons of Gershon by clan. So this is now the subgroup, Libni and Shimei. The sons of Kohat by clan, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uziel. And again, Amram is Moses's father. So Moses's father, Amram, was essentially, again, Levi's grandson, which makes Moses Levi's great-grandson, which makes him the great-great-grandson of Jacob, Moses. The sons of Mirari, this third group, this third son of Levi, by clan, Machli and Mushi. These were the clans of the Levites within their ancestral houses. Now, some people point out that Mushi sounds a lot like Moshe. Was this actually the original tribe of Moses? Well, we know that Moses is from Kohat, so it's not. But some people say that's a little either connection or confusing, or maybe the name was similar. But that is, again, one of the grandsons of Levi was Mushi. To Gershon belonged the clan of the Libnites and the clan of the Shemites. Those were the clans of the Gershonites. The recorded entries for all the males of 1 month and up, as recorded, came to 7,500. The clans of the Gershonites were to camp behind the tabernacle to the west. So as you saw in the diagram, they have a place, or a directional place around the tabernacle, the Gershonites. We also, again, get their numbers. That's their group. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the Gershonites was Eliasaph, son of Lael. And we had that name before, Eliasaph. This is now the head of the Gershonite clan. So we get the numbers, their station, and their head, just like we did with the other tribes. Now we get to the Gershonites. Oh, and by the way, I also meant to say, we now, sorry, moving around too much. We also get something that we didn't get before, which is what these people actually do. Now that with the Levites, we actually learn what their job is. The duty of the Gershonites in the tent of meeting comprised the tabernacle, the tent, its covering, and the screen for the entrance of the tent of meeting. The hangings of the enclosures, the screen for the entrance of the enclosure which surrounds the tabernacle, the cords thereof, and the altar. All the service connected with these. So the Gershonites, again, 7,500 of them, their job is to take care of these things. I should say these things. To Kohat belonged the clan of the Amramites, the clan of the Issarites, the clan of the Hebronites, the clan of the Uzzielites, and these were the clans of the Kohathites. All the males, all the listed males from age of 1 month and up came to 8,600, attending to the duties of the sanctuary. The clan of the Kohathites were to camp along the south side of the tabernacle. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the Kohathite clan was Eliatzaphan, son of Uzziel. Now, their duties were the ark, the table, the lampstand, the altars, and all the sacred utensils that were used with them, and the screen, all the service connected with these. So they have the ark. So a little bit more of the objects, moving the objects around, whereas the Gershonites were doing more of the screens and the cloths and the curtains. These guys are working more with the objects, the menorah, the ark, the shulchan, the table. And now, here's the issue. The head chieftain of the Levites was Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, in charge of those attending to the duties of the sanctuary. Well, these guys, folks, it means that this group of Levites also were Kohanim. So the Kohanim were part of the Kohathites and are also Levites, but they're also Kohanim. They have both roles to play. So it kind of makes sense that they have the ark and some of the holier things, because again, these are the Kohanim. Now, it's also the Kohanim and their cousins. The other people of the Kohathites were there. Now, the Mirari group. To Mirari belonged the clan of the Machlites and the clan of the Mushites. Those were the clans of the Mirarites. The recorded entries of all their males from the age of 1 month and up came to 6,200. The chieftain of the ancestral house of the clans of Merari was Suriel, son of Abichaim. They were to camp along the north side of the tabernacle. The assigned duties of the Merarites comprised the planks of the tabernacle, its bars, posts, sockets, and all its furnishings, all the service connected with these. Also the posts around the enclosure and their sockets, pegs, and cords. So it seems like the Merarites have the job of actually putting up the foundational infrastructure of the Mishkan. So they're putting up the wood poles and the stuff that you needed to have the curtains hanging on. So, you know, when you have the Gershonites with the curtains and the actual fabrics, these guys were more in charge of the putting up the wood, if you will, the wood and the metal poles. And then they would come in and do their stuff. And in some extent, the Kohathites are actually kind of in charge of the products, the vessels, the things that decorate. So you can see the differentiation, the duties that these different Levite groups had. So it was a really good division of labor, allowed them to do these things together. whenever they had to do it, because those who were to set camp before the tabernacle in front before the tent of meeting on the east were Moses and Aaron and his sons, attending to the duties of the sanctuary as a duty on behalf of the Israelites, and any outsider who encroached was to be put to death. All the Levites who were recorded, whom at the Lord's command Moses and Aaron recorded by their clans, all the males from their ages of 1 month and up, came to 22,000. So it's a fairly small group, especially when you think that they're counting them from 1 month and up. Unlike the other tribes, they're counting them from 20 years and up. So the Levites were actually a fairly small group of people. And their job is, again, to be in charge of the tabernacle, to set it up, and then the priests to do the work.
Were they armed? Did
Were
they have
Were
arms?
the priests armed? That's a good question. I don't think we ever have a description of the priests ever carrying weapons. Ideally, they're not supposed to, because they're engaged in holy activities. You're not even supposed to wield a metal object on the altar. You're not supposed to cut the stones. The stones were not supposed to be hewn with a blade. There definitely seems to be a sense that those people are not supposed to be engaged in warfare. We know that Moses went into battle, but he doesn't seem to be armed, which would have been interesting, right? Because he's leading the armies, but he's not armed himself. It's interesting because we know that Levi himself, the original ancestor of the Levites, was a very violent man. Arguably the most violent of Jacob's sons is Levi. Shimon and Levi are the two guys that go in and kill all the Shechemites. So interestingly, the Levites to some extent are deprived of this. We do know, by the way, that the Levites kill the people after the golden calf, right? So they definitely have the ability to take up weapons because they kill people during that scene. So they are armed at some point. Yeah, I mean, we don't know whether they normally had weapons, but they do kill people in the golden calf incident. So I guess they're capable of it. But whether they normally had weapons, I don't know. We don't have a description of it, but we do have a description of them using weapons in that scene. So I guess the answer is they're capable of it. Their ancestor was definitely capable of it. But they don't seem to engage in. We don't have records of them fighting from this point on. We don't have records of them fighting. Well, that's not exactly true either. Well, they're not Levites, but Pinchas, who's Aaron's grandson, he kills somebody when they're engaged in idolatry and sexual perversion, if you will, during the worship of Baal at Peor. So yeah, he does end up. I mean, later on we have, after this scene, we have an example of at least one priest killing somebody. But my guess is they weren't normally armed. My guess is that wasn't something that priests were supposed to do, is go into battle. So there's 22,000 of the Levites. Included in that are Aaron's descendants, right? So included in that are the Kohanim in that amount. The Lord said to Moses, record every firstborn male of the Israelites from the age of 1 month and up, and make a list of their names, and take the Levites for me, the Lord, in place of every firstborn among the Israelite people, and the cattle of the Levites in place of every firstborn cattle from among the Israelites. So Moses recorded all the firstborn among the Israelites as the Lord commanded him. All the firstborn males, as listed by name, recorded from the age of 1 month and up, came to 22,273. And then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take all the Israelites, the Levites, in place of all the firstborn among the Israelite people, and the cattle of the Levites in place of their cattle, and the Levites shall be mine, said the Lord. So what's interesting about this is that this number, 22,273, is roughly this number right here. So the number of firstborn males amongst the Israelites was 22,273. So there's 273 additional. So as the redemption price of the 273 Israelite firstborn over and above the number of Levites, take 5 shekels per head, take this by the sanctuary weight, 20 gerahs to the shekel, and give the money to Aaron and his sons as the redemption price for those who are in excess. So this is essentially like the Pidyon Haben, the redemption for all those extra ones that were in addition to the 22,000 Levite men over 30 days. So there's a price to be paid for your extra Israelites that don't conform to the 22,000. I mean, that are over and above the 22,000. So Moses took the redemption money from those over and above the ones redeemed by the Levites. He took the money from the firstborn of the Israelites, 1,365 shekels, sanctuary shekels. And Moses gave the redemption money to Aaron and his sons at the Lord's bidding, as the Lord had commanded Moses. So the money takes the place of the people, the extra people that weren't redeemed, if you will. So that is the Levites. Well, that's the chapter 3 is really about the Levites. So now we come to chapter 4. Everybody's with us so far. Excellent. So let us take a look at this next part. So again, this last chapter of Bamidbar is well, let's take a look, because so chapter 1 is a list of the elders. Chapter 2 is a list of the tribes broken down by numbers. And chapter 3, and then the division, how they were divided up around it. Chapter 3 is the Levites and the priests divided up. And now we come to chapter 4, which you're going to see what happens in chapter 4. And again, this would normally be the last in the maftir, the last reading, of the chapter of going through the numbers. We get to this. Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, take a separate census of the Kohathites among the Levites by the clans of their ancestral house. From the age of 30 years to the age of 50, all who are subject to service to perform tasks for the tent of meeting. The responsibility of the Kohathites in the tent of meeting, the most sacred objects. So 30 to 50 is the age for these subgroup, this one group of Levites. And remember, the Kohathites included Aaron and Moses and their cousins, all the people that trace their ancestry back, Amram and his brothers, back to their dad, Kohath. So these are the Levites who are the closest to Moses and Aaron, the closest ones to Moses and Aaron. This is the responsibility of the Kohathites in the tent of meeting, the most sacred objects. At the breaking of the camp, Aaron and his sons shall go down and take down the screening curtain and cover the ark of the pact with it. What we have here is the responsibilities that the family had. This is not really about numbers. This isn't really about counting anymore. We now get into responsibilities. And what's interesting about this is that in the next Torah portion in Manasseh, this is the continuing idea in the next portion. In the next section that we read, we're going to continue with these duties and responsibilities for the priests and what they do. The responsibilities really kind of start now, even though, again, the first 3 chapters are, numbering and counting and a little bit of the duties that are laid out. Now we really get into some detail. Here we go. The breaking of the camp, Aaron and his sons shall go down and take down the screening curtain and cover the ark of the pact with it. So when they took down the screening curtain, they covered the Aron, they covered the ark of the covenant with it. They shall lay a covering of dolphin skin over it and spread a cloth of pure blue on top, and they shall put poles in its place. That's a very interesting description of how they covered up the ark, in that they didn't leave the ark uncovered when they moved from place to place, right? So they didn't have the ark just sitting out while they were marching through the wilderness. They covered it, and they didn't just cover it once, right? They took a screening curtain, put it over it, then they put a dolphin skin over it, and then they put another cloth over that. So essentially there's 3 layers over the ark when it was moving. Over the table display, they shall spread a blue cloth. They shall place upon its bowls, upon it the bowls, the ladles, the jars, and the libation jugs, and the regular bread shall rest upon it. They shall spread over these a crimson cloth, which they shall cover with a covering of dolphin skin, and they shall put the poles in their place. So blue cloth and crimson cloth, dolphin skin over these objects. They shall take a blue cloth, cover the lampstand for lighting with its lamps, its tongs, its fire pans, as well as the oil vessels that are used in its service. They shall put it and all its furnishings in the covering of dolphin skin, which they shall then place on a carrying frame. Next, they shall spread a blue cloth over the altar of gold, cover it with the covering of dolphin skin, and they shall put on its poles in place. So it seems as though, let's finish a little bit more. They shall take all the service vessels which they service in the sanctuary as performed, put them in a blue cloth and cover them with a covering of dolphin skin, which they then shall place on a carrying frame. They shall remove the ashes from the copper altar and spread a purple cloth over it. Upon it, they shall place all the vessels that are used in its service, the fire pans, the flesh hooks, the scrapers, and the basins, all the vessels of the altar. And over it, they shall spread a covering of dolphin skin, and they shall put poles in its place. So when they traveled from place to place, they carried all of these things in such a way that they would be protected. But at the same time, if you put on heavy protection on something, it could scratch it, it could damage it. And so they put an under layer of protection over it before they put on the dolphin skin, which would be considered to be the leather, if you will, the heavier duty covering. So it's like somebody who has a really, really nice car. They put a really nice, they won't put a really protective covering on it because it's probably going to scratch it because it's so solid. But they'll put an undercover over it of a cloth or sheet, and then they'll put the heavier duty cloth over that, or leather, or whatever the weatherproof material that they'll put on it. So you put something on it that's weatherproof, but you didn't want to put that right on it. You covered it with something that was soft and that would not damage these objects. So when Aaron and his sons finished covering the sacred objects and all the furnishings of the sacred objects of the breaking of the camp, only then shall the Kohathites come and lift them, so that they do not come in contact with the sacred objects and die. These things in the tent of meeting shall be the porterage of the Kohathites. So before the Kohathites could even carry it, the stuff had to be covered up by the Kohanim. So the priests cover the stuff, put it all together, cover it up, and then the Kohathites can come and move it. So they get the great level of carrying these things, but even they can't cover them. They can only carry them once they've been covered. They can't pack them. They're not allowed to pack them. They can only carry them once they've been packed. Responsibility shall rest with Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, for the lighting oil, the aromatic incense, the regular meal offering, and the anointing oil. Responsibility for the whole tabernacle and for everything consecrated that is in it or its vessels. So the priests, the Kohanim, had to take care of the stuff that goes inside of these things, right? So the ingredients that go into the altar, the ingredients that go into the incense, these things the priests had to do themselves. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, do not let the group of the Kohathite clan be cut off from the Levites. Do this with them, that they may live and not die when they approach the most sacred objects. Let Aaron and his sons go in and assign each of them to his duties and to his porterage. But let not the Kohathites go inside and witness the dismantling of the sanctuary, lest they die. Now, folks, that's the end of the portion. It ends with the Kohathites basically being given this wonderful responsibility of moving these objects, the holiest parts, not the frame, not the covering, the screens, the garment that went go on those things, the curtains. They got to carry the most important stuff, the Kohathites, but even they couldn't work on the packaging of it. The Kohanim, the priests, had to do that themselves. So the Levites had a very high distinction, but even within that, there were things that they couldn't do. And so chapter 4 of Bamidbar really is about the way that the objects are carried and what they're going to do. Now, I will tell you that next week we get into what the other people do too. So the Gershonites are the next one. And then, of course, the Mirarites are the next one, the other two. So even though the Kohathites we heard about first because they have the most important job of carrying these things like the Ark of the Covenant, the altars, those kind of things, or the incense things, these things are really, really like the objects of holiness within this, they get mentioned first. And then we get into the other stuff that the other two Levite groups do, the Gershonites and the Mirarites. That's how Naso begins. And so that goes all the way in next week's portion, chapter 5, and the rest of chapter 4, chapter 5, and it goes all the way into sorry. Yep, no, goes all the way to the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5 begins our other interesting laws of Naso, which include the law of Sotah, the law of a woman accused of adultery, and then we'll also read about the Nazarites. And what we'll also then finish with is the beautiful words of the priestly blessing. May God bless us, bless you and protect you. That's all in next week's portion in Naso. In the meantime, folks, we are going to wrap up a little bit early so that I can get to getting out the information as we're starting to get it out about tomorrow night's event. Please join us. It is important for us to show our support of Israel. And look, I have no idea if there's going to be a counter protest. It's the thing that I'm most upset about the possibility of happening. But look, we can't put it out there for people to come without there being a risk of doing this. The Signal was 100% willing to write a story about it right away tonight. I figured that I'm lowering the risk for this. I will tell you, I'm not afraid of a counter protest. I don't want there to be. I'm not assuming there will be. If there is, there will be. But I'm telling you, this is not about a protest. This is not about, I think, anything other than, again, showing our support for Israel. If it happens, it happens. I don't want it to happen. I'm telling you very clearly, that was my motivation in even maybe keeping down the amount of people that would be there by kind of self-selecting, saying who we were going to tell this information to. Folks, I don't know what to tell you other than that, that's not my goal. My goal is not to be confrontational and to be and not to be political or to be obnoxious about anything. That's why, to some extent, I risked having less people there for doing that. I'm telling you 100%. I'm telling you this very clearly now. Right now, the Signal was very willing to put out a story immediately on it. It was my decision not to have a story on it ahead of time. There will be a writer, photographers tomorrow night to cover it, but it was not supposed to incite or to create any kind of, again, anything other than support. So folks, stay safe, stay positive, stay, again, passionate about the things that are important to us. And again, thank you all for being here tonight and for taking my mind off a little bit the current situation, which I have no solutions for, folks. Don't look at me to have a great idea for how I'm going to bring peace to the Middle East. No one's asked me, and I don't have an answer. But I will tell you this: as long as there's missiles slamming into Israeli homes, as a Jew, I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. So, thanks everybody.
Thank you very much.
Again,
Thanks,
you, Rabbi.
thanks, Rabbi. Good
Be-
luck tomorrow night.
Be
you got
safe.
it. Please,
Yes,
please
be safe.
please let everybody know too. Okay. Look on my Facebook page if you want to share it around. It's on the Temple Facebook page. Share it around and just hope everybody's comes there with a good attitude, good intention. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you all.
too.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.